today on June 7th, 2026, after the longest silence in the franchise's history, after I think, 10 years and a bit since they first announced Persona 5, maybe it was actually 12, Atlus finally broke cover at the Xbox Game Showcase and let us look at Persona 6. And it showed us almost nothing. I mean, no protagonist, no gameplay, no date. 80 odd seconds of rain falling on a field of gravestones, and a slow desaturated drift through a necropolis choked in green fog. It's almost kinda zombie inspired, maybe Lovecraftian I would call it, with the camera settling at last at the foot of a tall, pale, luminous statue shrouded figure under a canopy of trees. I don't need to describe it. It glitches a bit, and then after a few seconds there's the logo. And, it's a marketing campaign they're doing where they're withholding much of the story. They did the same with Persona 5 back when they had that campaign with you're a slave to your own will, and all of the imagery of it, I would say. It would be easy to call this a non-trailer, a piece of pure, engineering to monetize like pent-up appetite and to like stir up the fandom once again to get into speculating about it. But that reading, I think, kinda misses the point of this Persona teaser and what it actually represents, at least to me personally. So if you know me, and I don't know that because this could be watched by anyone, but essentially I'm a big fan of the Persona series. I've played all the games 1 through 5 all throughout my teenage years, and even a few years back I did a video on Persona 3 Reload, which ended up not doing very well. But I decided to give my thoughts on this because I feel like it's important. It's a new game in the franchise, and I kind of like the look of it. As a lot of you may know, this series has never spoken to us first in plot. It has this thing where it goes more into the unconscious, the archetypes, the iconography of thresholds, being very based around Jung's idea of the persona, It was actually mostly the older games had this thing going on where the Jungian theming was the most powerful part of the narrative. The later ones have it more like just in name. So it's kind of hard to like pinpoint if this truly will be a more Jungian leaning game. So the wager of this is simple. I have the idea that the empty grave of a trailer is not empty at all. It actually has a bit of a secret hidden message that I would honestly pinpoint to. Well, it's not exactly there, but the moment I saw it I was like, okay, I need to go open Jung's Red Book that's right here on my table somewhere. I opened it to the symbols page and I was like, okay, how does this relate to anything else? Persona is on its face a series of Japanese role-playing games about teenagers who go to school by day and fight monsters by night. Well, depends on the game you're playing. That's Persona 3 for the most part. In 4 it's day, in 5 it's day and night sometimes. But, underneath the turn-based combat sits the most sustained, most literal dramatization of Carl Jung's analytical psychology that mass culture has ever produced. I mean, even down to the title, a persona in Jung is the mask. They focus on that in Persona 5. It's the face we assemble for the world, the negotiated compromise between who we are and what the social field will accept. It isn't the lie exactly, it is a function that is necessary to use in interactions with others in the real day. It's like an interface between the ego and the collective, the danger. And mistaking the mask for the face is what Jung often talks about in this. And the series takes this idea and makes it as the protagonist being able to wield a bunch of different masks, a bunch of different personalities which represent each other, and as such turns the game into a metaphor about finding yourself. And most throughout the series there's like all of the games have this thing going on with them. Then there's the shadow, and here the shadow is supposed to be the opposite of the persona. It's the disowned self, the inferior, the repressed, the one the ego wants to push down. And of course, the games have been using them as metaphors to oppose the personas we craft in day-to-day life. And to talk about the integration of it, the humiliating moral labor that makes the darkness conscious and the ability to take it back. Even before Persona 4 did it, the whole thing with each character having dragged before a literal shadow was done in Persona 2 with I am you, the part you want to look at. It's basically the idea of it. That is the Jungian transcendent function that's rendered in the video game form as a boss fight of such. Where the symbol that can hold both kind of does. And it's been used a bunch of times like that throughout the series before. Where I want to get with this point is that even the supporting furniture, like everything in Persona is Jungian. So I want to analyze Persona from a Jungian lens, because I believe it's the only way to break down this trailer properly. We could discuss a lot about this. First of all, the Velvet Room is like a room between dream and reality, mind and matter, a combination of opposites into new forms. The guy who owns the Velvet Room, Iger, is named after the philosophical grandfather. And even before, like in Persona 1 and 2, the person above Iger himself is called Philemon. Philemon being the name Jung gave to the inner spirit guide who appeared to him in the Red Book. The social links or the confidants as well, they're literally like the symbols of Jung, which appeared before him, the jester, everything, and they're represented as tarot cards. It's very seeped in a very interesting symbolism, even if the writing doesn't always hold up to par to all of these symbols which have been presented forward. That's where I want to get with this one trailer in particular, because it's in a graveyard, which, historically has always been the unconscious, in a way. Like, the first game in the series did this thing where it had the whole idea of the collective unconsciousness, where it was everybody was kind of connected in a larger consciousness, and that's where the personas came from the sea of consciousness. And this graveyard here, and what I think they'll do with this game in particular, is that they'll take that idea of the sea of unconsciousness and develop it to the undead specifically. In that it opens in a cemetery, and in the typology of the psyche that this series has spent 3 decades building, the cemetery here, I don't believe it's just set dressing, is what I mean to say. Like, Jung was explicit and stranger about it than his reputation as the gentle sage allows him to be seen by the masses, in my opinion. So the unconscious for him was bound up by the land of the dead, this realm which, when we go down past the ego, is the realm of the ancestors, the ones that no longer live and are no longer among us. In 1916, in the middle of his own near disintegration, he wrote a small, feverish Gnostic text called Septem Sermones ad Mortuos, 7 Sermons of the Dead, which begins with the dead returning from Jerusalem, where they had gone seeking what they sought and not found it, crowding around him, demanding answers. The dead for Jung are not the ones that have died and are gone, they are the unanswered, the ones that haven't finished their lives or have left with things that are yet to be done in their lives, pressing on the living from below, asking to be somewhat completed in their journeys. And he called this descent into the unconscious structurally a nekia, the night sea journey. Odysseus pouring blood into the trench at the edge of the world so the shades can speak. You go down to the dead to recover something the daylight itself has lost. And if you look at this trailer and you have the how can I call them? The preconceptions of the imagery I just spoke about, with a different focus on the Jungian lens, then you can see this the densely packed gravestones in this like graveyard in the rain are not necessarily like horror game-esque. Like I don't think it will be more horror focused than any of the previous games, because even Persona 5 had this like very interesting teaser, but it never really went into horror, let's say. So they are picture of psyches, of the substratum of the crowded anonymous dead, and of the collective unconsciousness. People online, from what I've seen in this like first hour it's been revealed with, like to compare the green fog with the dark hour of Persona 3. But I don't believe there's anything particularly connecting these two, apart from the fact they're both focused on the dead. In Persona 3, people who went unconscious went back into coffins. So I guess it could be sort of tied to mortality like Persona 3, since that game's motto was Memento Mori. And it had the characters thinking about death and having like a pistol shaped to their head, performing a small ritual of suicide to access the powers of the soul. If Persona 6 is using this dark hour as like an analog for that, it may turn very, very interesting if it does something that I believe it will do with it, which is what I mentioned above, the Septem Sermones ad Mortuos. And then by the end of the trailer, the camera stops at this statue in the middle. It's like it's sort of like pans beneath and goes above it in a sort of journey-like way. It's a tall, luminous, shrouded figure on a pedestal, and it has like a half appearance framed by the bare branches that fan out like a canopy beneath the tree. And I kind of see it with the statue figure. Her hands are lifted up to a face that doesn't exist. First of all, like she's trying to cry, but there's no opportunity to. It's also like very green. Everything turns on the color, the green that it has picked, which is probably gonna be this sequel's color. You know, Persona 5 has red, 4 has yellow, 3 has blue. That game is too green in the remake for its own good. This game should have been more green, but this is like a toxic green, kind of like a zombie-like aesthetic, to say the least. One thing I could say about it is there are roughly 2 greens symbolically, and they are at war. The first is the green Jung loved, which is Benedicta Viriditas, the blessed greenness. He found it in, alchemists, and behind them in the mystic Hildegard of Binian, from whom Viriditas, or the green powering, was the very life force of God moving through creation, the sap of the soul, the vital principle that makes dead matter quicken and grow. And he said about alchemy that green is the color of the anima mundi, the world soul, the color of the spirit caught in matter, straining toward life. In some texts, the color of the Holy Ghost itself. This is the green of resurrection. The second green is the one alchemists feared as much as they needed. It is the green of the Leo Virdis, the green lion, raw corrosive matter that devours the sun, the color of acid, dissolving even gold back into formlessness so that something new can be made. It is a green of rot, one of nausea, envy, and very often associated with bile. If you've read Baudrillard or Argesi, they both have this idea. It was covered very extensively in existentialism, specifically. The idea of rot as well. And it is mostly like a will of the wisp kind of pale fire green. It's hard to describe. I'm also colorblind, so I'm just using words to say how I see it personally. It might not necessarily look like that, but it's a phosphorescent glow, and the trailer has this toxicity written in the title screen. It's toxic, to say the least. And there's both of the greens are present. It's the one of life behind the statue and the one of death in the title reveal. Life and death become indistinguishable from one another. It's like kind of like a threshold that separates one from the other. And also it has a lot of chromatic aberration. It has this, like, the trailer breaks into like newspaper articles asking who are you, with the statue's face appearing as a woman in the central image. There's also like a self symbol, and this is the orthodox hopeful Jungian reading that the self, the archetype of wholeness, the imago Dei in the psyche, is classically figured as stone. Either by the lapis, the philosopher's stone. There's a bunch of stones that have this classification throughout history. Even the diamond, it's treasure hard to attain. And the bare branches that fan behind the statue, with it like becoming kind of like the center of the world, the axis mundi of the main painting-like appearance, with a hand reaching like outside the ego to the unconsciousness itself. Like there's a shadow leaning on top of it right at the end, like someone reaching for it, like for their own persona. They're trying to confront the dark, reach for the light within it to become whole. And it's a bit melancholic as well. I think it's trying to imply that some of the dead have not managed to pass in the afterlife, in the sea of unconsciousness, and have failed to. Jung spoke about this in the Red Book as well, which, as I've said, I have open right here on my desk. He's kind of terrified of it. He calls it the inflation of when the ego is swallowed by the contents that it's meant to integrate and loses its individuality, kind of psychosis. So there is an iconography of horror at the center of it, with the statue reaching for it, everything building up to this central figure at the forefront of the image, and then the images that flash very, very, very fast saying, who are you? Also, we see for a split second Philemon's mask and then himself, which I wish is kind of his return to the series. And I guess that's what I could say about the symbolism of the trailer, personally. One thing I want to add is that I think this will release sometime. I don't know if it will release in 2026. We don't know, it's just an announcement. But definitely not around November. November will be literally the last time I imagine anything will release, since the big game made by Rockstar is around the corner, which I don't even have to mention. I just wanted to get my thoughts out. I'm sorry if this video was a bit rambly. I've been Luca, and if you've enjoyed this video, please be sure to check some of the other ones on the channel. Thank you so much, and I'll see you around. Bye.